many start out as volunteers, and then the best of the best get hired to work for us. And it's kind of like an on-the-job interview. So it's just amazing the kind of dietitians that I've ended up being able to hire, because I saw them. I was like, wow, you are just running circles around social media. This is amazing. Or you're just amazing with customer service, or you are amazing with research. Wow, this is just what we need.
Do you ever have so many questions and no one to ask, so they're just wasting away on Google searches you'll forget about in an hour or so?
We had that same problem, and that's why we created the RD2B podcast, a resource for dietetic and nutrition students looking for answers that their peers don't have.
We are students Macy and Emily and registered dietitian Carl Barnes. We engage in conversations and learn from RDs.
Join us weekly as we gain insight into the unique journeys of registered dietitians all over the country.
Welcome back to another week of the RD2B podcast. I'm your registered dietitian host, Carl Barnes. This is our podcast where each week we sit down with a different awesome registered dietitian to really showcase and highlight the diversity of opportunity in the dietetic profession, specifically from the viewpoint of giving advice to students, no matter where you are on your RD2B journey. Our goal really is to prepare you and expose you to as much as possible at no cost to you, obviously. To give you exposure to this stuff as you plan out your career and move forward. So this week, I'm very honored to be sitting down with a registered dietitian who's in private practice in the DC metro area. Rebecca Bitzer with Rebecca Bitzer and Associates is with us to talk about her career path as well as what she does in the private practice world. So thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here, and I love all the things that you're doing with RD2B. So I'm excited to get started.
Hi, my name is Macy and I'm a junior RD2B at the University of Maryland.
And I'm Emily. I'm also the RD2B from University of Maryland College Park. So I guess we can go on with the questions. So when you were choosing where you did your undergrad, your master's, and your dietetic internship, what made you fall upon University of Maryland and University of Virginia?
Well, actually, I graduated from high school early, so I was only 16 years old when the decision happened for me to go to college. And my mom didn't want me to go far from home. So I lived in New Carrollton, which is just a stone's throw away from University of Maryland College Park. So the decision was basically made for me. And University of Maryland was completely different when I graduated, and it has just grown by leaps and bounds and is just so amazing now. I feel honored to be able to say that I was a University of Maryland graduate, because everyone thinks about University of Maryland, how it is now and how amazing it is. So I feel glad, very happy about that. And similarly, I graduated from college early, and my mom said the same thing: you can't go far from home. So I only applied to University of Virginia hospital dietetic internship, and everyone told me I was foolish just to apply to one. But I played my odds, and I went there and told them, you're the only place I applied to, please let me in. And fortunately I got in, because it was very competitive to get internships back then, just like it's crazy competitive to get internships now. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. So when you were going through your internship process, did University of Maryland have an internship at the time or not yet?
No, they did not.
And then nothing was obviously like in the area like Sodexo or anything like that, right?
No, Sodexo wasn't there. Distance programs weren't there.
Wow. It's crazy how much like it's like evolution a lot. Wow, I can't pronounce that, so I'm just going to completely go away from that. Like how crazy it's grown over the past few years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what benefits did you gain from graduating early from college, other than like saving money?
Saving money, that was definitely part of it. I think saving money was a large part of it. And just kind of being eager to learn. I feel like I'm a lifelong learner, and that keeps me young and active and making a difference, is always looking at the next thing I can learn, the next thing I can do.
So while you were at Washington Hospital Center, what would you say piqued your interest the most, and what did you learn the most from there?
I loved Washington Hospital Center. It was wonderful. It was hospital center back then, now it's medical center, but I loved being part of the big team. I loved all the excitement of being in a hospital. It's very much like it is on the hospital shows on TV. There's always something going on. There's all kinds of drama. There's all kinds of excitement. And there's all kinds of learning. I would definitely recommend getting an internship, if possible, at some kind of a large teaching hospital, because you'll be exposed to so many different disciplines and really see how all the pieces work together, like the pharmacists and the occupational therapists and the speech therapists and the physicians and everything working together. It's really amazing. And then you'll be able to go on rounds with the team and go to grand rounds and do all kinds of really amazing, fun things. And then as your interests and your specialties develop, you can switch around and be on different units. So I started off in oncology, and then I moved to the ICU, and I moved to the burn unit, and just always realizing the power of nutrition and the power of making a difference and connecting with clients. It was just really exciting. It was exciting. I loved it, absolutely loved it.
How well do you think UMD prepared you for your dietetic internship?
I think University of Maryland did a great job preparing me for my internship. I think the whole key to being successful is being able to just learn and absolutely make the most out of every single opportunity that is presented in front of you, and learn as much as you can.
And then I noticed after your internship, you started working within the government. So how would you compare your government job to the private practice job that you're currently in?
Well, I'll back up. The reason I left the hospital was because I wasn't a hospital employee. I was a food service employee, and they kept changing food service companies every few years. And I was always kind of stuck. It always felt like in limbo, and it felt like the best way to move up would be to move to a different hospital. But I loved Washington Hospital Center. So I decided that what was the next step for me. So I actually went to graduate school. I went back to University of Maryland, did my graduate school work there, and then started working at the Department of Agriculture at the time, and worked there as a student, and then kind of ended up being there full time as a food consumption research dietitian. And I loved that also because it like fulfilled the nerdy part of me, the real science part, the part that I had just, got my master's degree and knew all about surveys and research, and that was pretty exciting. But my heart is really with helping people, and I missed the ability to work with people one-on-one. That's what I feel like my gift is, helping people, and I missed that. I missed that terribly.
So what made you decide to go back to graduate school at that point in your life versus sooner or later?
That's great. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. I think I was kind of lost. Like, what do I do now? In the hospital at the time, there was really nowhere to go except be chief dietitian. And I remember, or then food service director. And I went on a food service director job interview at one time, and it just scared me to death because they said, what would you do if there was a knife fight in the kitchen? And here I was, just a young 20-ish-year-old girl, like, oh my gosh, a knife fight, what am I gonna do? So I was like, okay, there has to be something else. And I thought, well, why not get an advanced degree? And I was single. I felt like, let's just do it now before life gets in the way. So I've never regretted that. And I think now, especially because so many people have master's degrees in dietetics, and that's going to be a requirement in a few years for everybody, it feels like I was kind of ahead of the curve. So I feel good about that.
So how would you handle a knife fight in the kitchen?
I have no idea. I didn't take that job. How would you handle a knife fight?
I'd leave.
Yeah, I run call 911 or something.
Well, 911.
911.
Yes, definitely.
So when did you start your private practice, and what processes did you go through to start it?
Yeah, I started it when I was at the government, actually, and I was really speedy and got all my work done fast. And I felt like I heard about being in private practice. It was brand new at the time, and I heard a little rumblings of it. And I was like, oh, what is this? And I was like, oh, I want to find out about this. Maybe I can start doing this. And so I started to read. Kathy King, who's now Kathy King Helm, wrote a book of the entrepreneurial nutritionist, and I just emailed her. I was like, when did you write that first book? And it was in 1986. And I started my practice in 1987. So I know I bought the book when it was brand new, and I was like, what is this? I want to do this. This is really cool. I could work for myself, and I could counsel clients. And isn't this really cool? So I thought it was really cool, and I just sort of dove into it without really thinking it through, and it worked for me, and it was really so incredibly amazing. I didn't know what I was doing. So I had the stability of my government job, and then what I did was I changed to 4 10-hour days so I could work on Fridays and Saturdays doing private practice work. And I didn't know what to do, but I started in the book, said meet with physicians. So I was young and scared and shy. And I was like, okay, this is what I have to do. So I knocked on the doors of physician offices and said, hi, I'm a dietitian. Do your clients need, nutrition help? And knock on enough doors, you get somebody to say, sure. So that's what happened. And I started counseling clients in one physician's office, and then I kept looking around, and then it was 2 physicians' offices and 3 physicians' offices, and then all of a sudden it was 7 different physician offices in a 5-day work week. And I was like, oh, this is too much. This is too much. All I'm doing is driving around, In the morning I was in Crofton, and in the afternoon I was in College Park, and the next day I was in Hyattsville, and then I was out in Bowie. And anyway, so finally, I took the next bold step, and I talked to a group of cardiologists, 2 cardiologists that I was working in their office, seeing their clients, and said, can I just see clients here and pay you rent and see, clients from a lot of different doctors' offices? So that's what happened. And then I started seeing clients there. People started coming to me. So that was a lot smarter, a lot better for sure.
So how did you sell yourself in a well manner?
How did I sell myself? I remember I made these flyers that said, a dietitian can save you time and money, so you don't have to counsel your clients on low-fat diets or low sodium diets or weight management or anything like that. So it worked. It worked.
Is your private practice, when you started it, more general, or did you have like a niche that you were interested in helping out with?
That's a great question. It was general. I did everything. I'd study for 2 hours before a client, if they had Crohn's disease. I'm like, oh my gosh, Crohn's disease, because that was before the internet. So I had to get my textbooks out and read and oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. So in a lot of ways, it's easier now. And it's a lot more complicated now because the whole world has all these different resources that we have, and it gets confusing for them. But that's, again, another role for us, is that we cut out the confusion for the clients.
So even now, does your company, your private practice have a niche, or is it more generalized and then you have dietitians that like specialize in one way or another?
That's a great question. So my full business name is Rebecca Bitzer and Associates, a dietitian for every condition. So the
Mhm.
idea being that if you go to a specialist, you'll get more deep care. And it's not like a dietitian can't see every condition, because of course we're trained to see every condition. But I think of it like back at the medical model. So if I had a broken leg, I wouldn't go to an oncologist. And if I had cancer, I wouldn't go to an orthopedic surgeon. And I think the same way goes with nutrition. So if you're having terrible digestive issues, it doesn't make sense for you to go to a diabetes specialist. It makes a whole lot of sense to go to a dietitian that lives and breathes low FODMAPs and SIBO and gluten-free and does that all day long. You're going to get a better experience. So that's what we do in our practice. Is everybody does a little bit of everything, but mostly people have very deep niches.
So what type do you have in your
So we see a lot of clients with eating disorders and disordered eating, a lot of clients with digestive issues, a lot of clients with cancer, and a lot of clients with diabetes, and a lot of people for weight management and general healthy eating.
So when you were creating your private practice, whether it was, you know, in the beginning or even now, what are some struggles that you've had as a business owner?
Well, my first struggle was I did the traditional nutrition counseling, and what happened is my appointment book got really full fast, because if you're good at what you do, people will want to come back, and then all of a sudden you're turning away business. So that's what happened to me. I was turning away business. So I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? So I never ever thought of myself as a business owner back in the day, but I was like, these people need help. Let me hire dietitians to help me and to work with me. And I think the two mistakes I made, one mistake was thinking that everybody's going to work as hard as I do and as compassionately as I do, and that kind of a thing. So I was naive in terms of just attracting really good people. I was naive, and I got really much better at that over time. And then the other mistake I made, which a lot of private practice dietitians still do, is they hire independent contractors instead of employees. And if you're following the rules of the IRS, you're really supposed to be hiring employees because you supervise their work and a whole lot of other criteria. So if you want to get hired by a dietitian down the road, just be aware of that. And it's best to be an employee for your own protection also.
What were some of your qualifications for RDs that you did hire? What qualities they need to have?
I'm sorry,
What were the qualities that the RDs that you hired needed to have?
well, so now what I do is, gosh, I have so many different things I do, but one of the really cool things I do, and this is like sort of the plug I want to make for you all as dietetic students, is if you look at my website, you'll see that there are University of Maryland students that work for us. And what that really is many start out as volunteers, and then the best of the best get hired to work for us. And it's kind of like an on-the-job interview. So it's just amazing the kind of dietitians that I've ended up being able to hire, because I saw them. I was like, wow, you are just running circles around social media. This is amazing. Or you're just amazing with customer service, or you are amazing with research. Wow, this is just what we need. You're smart, you're hardworking, you're compassionate, you're trusted, you're efficient. We'd love to have you join our team. So that's how I've ended up just finding the most amazing talent whatsoever. It's just being so fortunate to have University of Maryland close by.
Well, that's awesome. That's a really smart idea for you to do. But out of all the certifications you could have gotten, what made you choose the CEDRD credential?
CEDRD, Certified Eating Disorder Registered Dietitian, because my other passion is really helping people heal their relationship with food. And what I saw over the course of my profession is I saw people would come in, lose weight, and just be ecstatic, so incredibly happy. And then they would go away, and then they would come back like a few years later, having regained the weight. And I was like, what's up with this? This is so horrible. What's going on? And that was really before people were clear on binge eating disorder and, really not getting the whole picture of food is a coping mechanism. Food is so much more than being on a diet and off a diet, and just really learning about intuitive eating and really figuring out how we can, as a profession, do no harm and really help people make sustaining changes and give them life and nourishment in the biggest sense of the word. So that, and also with working with clients with anorexia nervosa, just watching their worlds just shrivel up was just so incredibly sad. And at the same time, watching them start to nourish themselves and then getting a whole new perspective on life and getting their sense of humor back and being able to think more clearly again and finding joy was wonderful for me. So I really wanted to get the best skills that I could as an eating disorder dietitian so that I could help people in terms of recovery from eating disorders. It's very, very fulfilling. So that was definitely what I was most interested in and still am.
Did you fall upon that while you were an undergrad or when you were doing your internship, or when did you really sit down and realize I want to be an eating disorder specialist?
Well, I think I was always curious about it because in my the paper that I needed to write, the case study for my internship, I picked anorexia nervosa. And it wasn't well known at the time, but I was able to do a chart review instead of a client. And I learned a lot about it then, but people didn't know about it. That was way back in the day where it was completely not understood. So I think that I was always interested in it. I think the research also shows that people who gravitate toward dietetics tend to have issues with disordered eating and that kind of a thing. So I definitely think that that was interesting to me also, and how to improve my eating and improve clients' eatings and really look at things from the psychological point of view and really looking at nourishment altogether.
So knowing where dietetics was when you started and where it is now, and also knowing the little autobiography you wrote yourself when you were 11, what kind of advice would you give to, younger Rebecca?
Younger Rebecca, I would say to just keep going forward, even when things are tough, and to not be afraid to let your light shine and to not hold yourself back and be shy. And I think that's one of the things that really hurt my profession early on was I was terrified of public speaking. I would have never, ever, ever, ever said yes to this podcast because I was terrified of public speaking. But when I was becoming more and more of an eating disorder advocate, I joined Toastmasters so I could start speaking publicly about eating disorders and also about building a private practice. And even this year at Fancy, even though it's going to be virtual, I'm going to be a panelist for one talk and moderator for another talk. So again, those are things that I never would have done 10 years ago. And I applaud you all for being so young and doing public speaking now, because I think that's what our profession really needs. Our profession needs a strong, sensible, fact-based nutrition roadmap for the world, because the world needs us. And unfortunately, still people don't really understand the value of a registered dietitian. So I love what you're doing to spread the word. I think that's amazing.
You're amazing too.
You're sweet.
I really think so. But you've touched on this a little bit. If you have anything more to add, how do you continue to make your private practice stand out? And like, do you have a bigger vision for how you want it to look like 10 years from now?
Yes, I actually do. My big vision for the next 10 years would be to, okay, I'll back up. One of my other really big things is mentoring. Like, I love to watch people grow. Like, it just makes my heart so happy to see my employees just learn new things and do cool things and write books and amazing blogs and speak and run groups. And that just makes me incredibly happy. So what I want to do is I want to pass down with a succession plan, my business to a couple of my employees. And that's what my vision is. And for them to take it from my shoulders onward into some way I just haven't even imagined yet is what I want. We have now 14 dietitians that work with us, which is amazing. We have pivoted during telehealth. It's worked beautifully. We're busier than ever. We have 22 employees altogether. It's time for me to just move my practice on to the next generation. So that's where I'm headed, but I'll always be around helping in any way I can.
That's awesome, because like, you know, you were able to see from the beginning where it's developed, and now you can see where other people are gonna, you know, get it to. That's awesome to hear. So what advice do you have for students who are like, you know, we're in the pandemic right now, we want to have experience for our internships, right? So what advice would you have for us to get exposure for when we apply?
I think volunteering. Volunteering is absolutely the best thing to do. And it doesn't have to be a lot. You know, 10 hours a week can just do amazing things for your career. So I would absolutely encourage people to volunteer because it's amazing. You get automatic mentorship, you get experiences that you wouldn't get, you get recommendations, you get opportunities. We have so many opportunities that come through my email every single day that would be fabulous for a young dietitian to do. So I think instead of feeling sad about the pandemic, and of course it's been really hell for everybody over the past year in so many ways, but I know that, is it Macy that is doing something for Nikki Streley?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I saw that on your LinkedIn. So that's the perfect example, is all of a sudden the world is flat and you can be doing something for a dietitian rock star in California or Florida or Atlanta or Michigan. And that's just become so mainstream now. It really will open up so many doors. So if you have a specialty, it's a great way to reach out to a dietitian and learn and figure out, oh, is this what I want to do? Or is something else what I want to do? And to really look at it that way. So I would totally do that. I also would recommend getting involved in the dietetic practice groups. I've made lifelong friends and nutrition entrepreneurs. Way back when I was shy, I just did that, and it was fabulous because there's nothing more exciting than the synergy that you get when you put strong, smart, creative people all in a room together, all going towards a common goal. It's exciting and it's fascinating, and we all become stronger and better.
So just as a side note, you mentioned a couple times you were shy. So when do you think you stopped labeling yourself as that?
That's a great question. It's like, I still call myself shy. I think there's like, I'm an introvert, and I think that's a great thing because it helps me step back and kind of figure out what's going on and catch on to the undertones and recharge my battery and all that kind of a thing. And I really do need to stop calling myself shy because it is limiting. And at the same time, I think that's speaking to the younger me that says, what the heck? What the heck? What's the worst that can happen with this podcast? Somebody's like, oh, whatever, or it could be wonderful, and probably a little bit of all of those things. So I think that the biggest thing is to give yourself permission to learn by doing. So much of nutrition, and especially nutrition counseling, I think of it like swimming. You can read a million books about swimming. You're never going to be a good swimmer until you dive into the pool and you start swimming, and you keep swimming, and you keep getting better and better and better. So I think that's my word of advice.
I really like that analogy.
Yeah, me too. As a registered dietitian, how extensive are your cooking skills, and how valuable do you think it is to have cooking skills and tell your clients how to cook certain things?
Gosh, that's such a great question. I really wish I loved to cook, and I don't. I just don't. I'm fine at it. I don't mind cooking when people are coming over, but I would rather order a pizza or crabs or something easy. I I don't love it. I wish I loved it, and I admire dietitians that love to cook. And a lot of my team cooks, and we do cooking demos, and they do wonderful, and we have fabulous recipes on our website. And the criteria for the recipes on the website are I have to be able to cook them easily. So I think the benefit of not being able to, not enjoying cooking, is that way I've learned ways to put a meal on the table without a lot of effort. And I think that's attractive to a lot of clients, because a lot of people don't have the time or the energy or the interest to cook. So I can help them really, really well. And then if they want to really learn to cook, then they can see some of my other dietitians.
I think that's really important that you mentioned that, because, as dietitians, I feel like they're like, you should really, plan out your meals, make your meals, meal prep. But some people don't have the ability, don't have the time, don't have the energy to cook. So if we, tailor to those individuals that, don't have the time or energy to cook, I feel like that could really make their experience more beneficial as well, and understand that there are healthy options with going out and not just cooking.
Absolutely. And I do cook, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
love it,
yeah.
and I don't cook every night. But yeah, it's being smart, cooking ahead, planning ahead, being smart about it. Yeah.
So what is your favorite food to cook?
I would say s'mores, because they usually involve a fire pit, outdoor fun, cooking. I'm really good at toasting a marshmallow till it's just right, putting it in a little s'more sandwich and just enjoying it.
Delicious. I want one now.
I know, I love s'mores too.
They're so fun.
So kind of to wrap this up, what final advice do you have for RD2Bs in general?
The final advice is to be okay to get out there and make mistakes and to learn and to grow and to ask for help, because I think that is really a sign of strength, being able to ask for help, whatever that is, and to not be afraid to ask for help and to push yourself out of your comfort zone continuously and to continue to learn every day and to be grateful for whatever circumstances come your way.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you're a busy woman with running a private practice and all, but we really appreciate you talking to us tonight.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. And again, I am honored to be here, and I am just so impressed with what the three of you are doing. So my absolute congratulations to all of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. And I love it. And I just don't think it can be said enough, mostly from the humility that you're showing of just getting out there and pushing yourself out of the comfort zone. I think a lot of students, and most of us when we were students, just get so easily intimidated and kind of self-limit. So it's great hearing from those who have been there and grown from it. So as always, you can catch us each week with another registered dietitian. Thank you again, Rebecca. This has been fantastic.